Evening, everybody. Like sands through the hourglass, we begin tonight with the days of our lives on the inflation roller coaster. But ever so slightly, we are continuing, even if it doesn't feel like it, to go down that coaster. This week, we found out we are in month 7 of that slight downward trend. But like I said, it's so slight, it's hard to see out there. We are still way above the Fed's 2% target rate of inflation, while we sit at 6.4%. But it is progress, and it turns out our area is making much better progress than most of the country. Yay! Gordon, fill us in.
Yeah, every other month we get the local numbers here in the Twin Cities, and right now the number is 5.1%, which is the second lowest in the country right now, behind Washington, D.C. That got us wondering, why are the numbers looking so much better here in Minnesota? And here's what we found out. Why is Minnesota, seeing a lower inflation rate than other cities?
Particularly in housing and rent has driven prices to grow less quickly in the Twin Cities than elsewhere in the country.
St. Thomas economics professor Tyler Schipper says in most categories on the monthly CPI report, the Twin Cities is pretty close to the nationwide average. But when it comes to the cost of shelter, nationally, prices have gone up 7.9% over the last year. In the Twin Cities, it's nearly half as much, at 4.1%.
Compared to other metro areas that were released this month, Minneapolis was doing really well.
This trend goes back all the way to July of last year, so it's not just a one-time thing. And it's not just the CPI report that shows this. Check out this graph from Apartment List. The blue line is the U.S. overall, the green line is Minnesota, and purple is the Twin Cities. You can see how rental increases have been below the national average since May of last year, and they're still lower today. And for home prices, Realtor.com says the average listing price nationwide is 8.1% higher than it was a year ago. Whereas the Minnesota Realtors Association says here in Minnesota, the increase is less than half of that, at 3.4%.
Other than that shelter component, we have seen some better energy readings in the last 4 months.
With the Twin Cities seeing cheaper natural gas and electricity compared to most other major cities. But it's not all good news. Schipper says when it comes to increases with food prices, in the Twin Cities they're higher than the national average. And while the numbers overall are better compared to the rest of the country, they're still higher than normal.
Over the last 12 months, prices have still increased by 5.1%. So better than that national average of 6.4%, but still quite a bit higher than the Federal Reserve likes.
And while Professor Schipper says lower inflation in the Twin Cities may give us some bragging rights here, it really doesn't affect anything nationally.
Us doing better here in Minnesota, does it really have an effect on what's going to happen to us?
Bottom line is that a particularly good report or bad report from Minneapolis probably doesn't have a meaningful effect on the path of interest rates overall.
So Professor Schipper is still expecting the Feds will raise interest rates by 1/4 to 0.5% next month, because inflation continues to be a problem. But at least it's getting better.
It's not a terrible economy to live in right now. Sure, it's rough around the edges and we're still working on it, but things are improving, especially from where they were 6 months to a year ago.
And he believes we could still make that soft landing that everyone has been hoping for, where the Fed can lower interest rates low enough to get those prices down, but not too low that we kickstart a recession.
Thanks for explaining that, Gordon. It makes perfect sense because let's say we buy groceries every few days. That's where we see prices all the time. So I'm like, what? I don't see anything going down.
Yeah, it doesn't feel that way. When we first started working on this story, I was going to say a lot of people are going to see this and go, I don't think that's true. But it was good to see the real reasons behind these lower numbers.
All right. Thanks so much, Gordon. We appreciate it.